Hey everyone, Brian from IGN here with Chloi Rad.
Hey guys.
Chloi, we're going to look at the first gameplay of Dark Souls 3 out of Gamescom. We each play the demo a little bit. Mine was a much shorter demo than yours, but From likes to hide some things in their trailers, so we're going to pick out what you might have missed.
Yep.
Now let's jump in right away with the obvious thing once it appears. Boom. Dark sign. That is a sign that is on people who are afflicted with the curse to sort of become hollow over time.
Yeah, it's the mark of the undead.
Yep, we've seen this since Dark Souls 1. One thing, I'm going to let it run a little bit here. You pointed out that this narrator sounds like the narrator of Dark Souls.
I think it's the lady who narrates the first cutscene in Dark Souls, so that's, yeah, that kind of sets the tone really well, I think.
Okay, and that kind of combined with the, what was with the Embers line that you pointed out?
Oh yeah, so in the first trailer, they say only embers remain, right? And that was kind of the bit of lore in the first trailer. In this one, we hear her say, the fire fades and the lords have no thrones.
Right, so we're really getting into the territory where it sounds like we're closing that loop from Dark Souls 1 to 3, like the lighting the fire, what happens when the fire goes out, when the Age of Giants ends and the Age of Man begins.
Yeah, so this, if we're going off of what she says, this sounds a lot like either the fire is fading again, which she does say, or someone has permanently put out the fire, and this is kind of the Age of Dark.
All right, I'm on board with that. Let's talk about this. We played the demo, and it is in this city, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the city called?
This area is called the Wall of Lodoleth. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. I've never heard it spoken.
You're probably fine. And one thing that people have been pointing out online is that these sort of pointy
Gothic spires looks a bit like Yharnam from Bloodborne.
Yep, but it doesn't look completely like Bloodborne. A lot of this looks like, undead.
To me,
Undead
yeah,
kind of
Undead Burg is more along the lines.
Yeah,
of
I don't
what
think
the
game has really lost its identity to Bloodborne.
No.
But let's move on a little bit here. Next shot. So there's a bunch of shots that seem very important that are all kind of connected. This one, my first instinct is to not go near it because in Dark Souls 1 they fake you out with a dead dragon by putting items by it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go near this guy.
I actually, you do run into this guy early on in the demo, and he's dead. Yeah.
Okay, he's actually dead.
He's for sure dead.
That's really sad.
It's really sad.
Okay, I didn't see that part in the demo, but
there is another dragon though that swoops down.
Oh, great!
Does the whole Hellkite dragon thing
I guess
on you.
that makes me happy. This part's a little weird. We don't quite know what's going on, but it looks like there's some.
It looks like the aftermath of a
Things
battle.
are pretty
Yeah.
devastated here. Maybe this is a bonfire we're looking at that we can't see the bottom of.
It's not a bonfire.
It's not?
No.
Okay, you've seen that?
It's just, there's a lot of swords and stuff stabbed into the ground. It looks like something happened here.
Okay. Yeah, not a lot of clues in this one, actually, unlike a lot of the other scenes. We're going to move on and talk about those. Here we're seeing some hollow, and since Dark Souls 1 we've seen them, once they go like mindless and empty, they kind of keep to themselves, but here they're sort of praising this tree with corpses in it.
They're praising the sun.
They're praising the sun.
I mean, in the first Dark Souls, in places like New Londo Ruins and just around, we do see hollows praying and stuff. So, actually, if we want to skip ahead a bit, there is something
that links those. We're going to come back to this. Do not worry,
We'll get back
everyone.
to this guy.
We'll be back.
So here, like, those look like hollows to me. Not just like undeads, but like full-on hollows.
Yep.
But they seem to be in some kind of like procession of some sort.
There's
even like a pope guy in the back.
The weird thing about this is like, hollows are not intelligent. They're not like they just kind of hang out.
They're like dumber than
dead.
Zombies.
And
yeah.
here they're dumber than zombies. And here they look like there's a purpose. Like there's something going on. It's kind of weird to think that maybe some force is
they're kind of regaining their humanity a little bit,
like turning them into men.
Yeah, I mean, we know like the Age of Dark is supposed to be supposedly the Age of Man, so it's like what happens to the undead curse when that age is ushered in. So that'll be really interesting.
That's spooky. Speaking of spooky though, this lady here looks very Bloodborne-y.
Very New Londo Ruins.
Yeah. Yep. The environment looks a lot like that.
She's not as spooky as.
Oh, we'll get there. I just want to point out really quick that she has this brand in her hand.
Yeah.
That kind of looks like a peace sign. I don't feel like she's very peaceful.
No.
I don't know what's going on with that brand. It's probably a weapon. It's probably awful. There's a spooky guy in the cell there.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with
that. It
kind
of looks like a.
He looks like the giant man centipede from Demon Souls a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Here's the procession again. Of course, we just kind of skipped back to link those two scenes. Not too much to say about this room. I didn't see it in my demo. I just want to say that it looks fantastic. I love the ornamentation. I love how it looks like set up to some sort of like religious purpose or
it's
ritual.
Beautiful. The art direction in this game is fantastic.
Yeah. And one thing I did not really see, but you wanted to point out how the torch works quick?
Yeah, the torch, it doesn't work like it did in Dark Souls 2. It's more like Bloodborne where you kind of have an unlimited torch item. You can pull it out whenever. You don't need to light it from anything.
No source needed. No
Yeah.
light source?
Nope.
Or okay, that's awesome. Pretty room. Maybe a boss fight room. It kind of looks like it.
This is the big thing
Yep.
that everyone's talking about.
Super quick. There were some rumors a long time ago from that really old leak that you could make bonfires out of dead bodies.
Right.
That kind of looks like a thing that's happening.
Yeah,
here.
we've never actually seen the gameplay like that demonstrated in the gameplay itself. This is more of a cinematic, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Oh.
Right. Oh, sorry.
Getting a bit.
And one thing I want to point out is that we have already seen bonfires that are not made this way.
Right, like
pre-existing bonfires.
Yeah, there are pre-existing bonfires in the demo that people are playing
so it's
right
not like
now.
You'll have to make them all yourself, like
yeah,
this
so
or
there's
whatever
no
is
need to
going
worry
on.
about that, I'm sure.
Let's move on to these enemies who are super agile. This guy runs at you and flips over you.
Sick
I've seen
moves.
bosses with that kind of agility, but not just. These guys look kind of like regular enemies to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That looks difficult. Here we got a really quick roll.
Yeah.
Like almost Bloodborne fast to me.
Yeah,
Not quite?
the speed of this game I would relate more to Demon Souls than Bloodborne, and I'll get to that in my preview.
Okay.
So which you can read now, but
Yeah, the preview's up. Yeah. You get more into the mechanics, which is something that's better to discuss in writing in a preview than on something like this. But yeah, the quick roll seems to be there.
big spooky
This
skeleton.
is one of my favorite shots. First of all, because it's super spooky, Skeleton Man coming out of the water here. Imagine you're just walking along and that's what you see. The one thing I want to point out is that this environment seems very small for it to be a boss fight, and if this was some sort of NPC, I would love that.
You've clearly never fought the Capra Demon. I'm just joking.
Okay. That's a little.
What's
little
really
different.
what's really interesting here actually is as we've seen in the demo, there's no fog wall that blocks you off from the boss room like the first time that you go in. So it's totally possible this guy's a boss. He looks a bit like a giant version of the Skeleton Lords in Dark Souls 2.
So you could just walk in and
he
find
could be
him
a boss.
and
He
not
could
even
be
know.
a friendly NPC. So happy to see you.
One thing here, this looks a lot like the miracle called, I believe it's Emit Force, from Dark Souls 1.
Right.
And it's just like a quick blast out of you that kind of stuns enemies and knocks it back.
What this actually is, if we want to go back.
Yeah, clarify, because I didn't do this in the demo.
Right, so this is actually you getting into the ready stance, which again I will talk more about in my preview. It's not a miracle that we're seeing here, but it does stun enemies in a similar way. So
cool. Here we're really just seeing, I'll let it play, how fast the bow is. The bow has always been fun, and I love it, but it's never really been viable mid-combat, especially not any difficult combat.
Right, it's more for, I've always used it for just kind of aggroing far away enemies.
But that is the point in this game. It's a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's a viable weapon now.
And
we
the
also see the
backstabs.
backstab.
I'm so
and
glad
it is
to see
fast.
the original Dark Souls 1 backstab, and the animation is super fluid. So
yeah, in Dark Souls 1, it was like a big old whole thing, and you're like, oh, he winds it back. And no, this is much faster. Here we see a super quick spinning attack taking out, I don't know, 4 kind of weakish enemies, I would assume.
Yeah, so those are the Legion
what that
scimitars. Yeah, this is the dual wielding blades. And what you're seeing here is called the weapon art or sword art, battle art. I've heard it called all sorts of things. But once you get into that ready stance, you can then do these special attacks with certain weapons.
Cool.
Well, with all weapons, I'm sure, but.
Really quick shot here. This guy kind of looks like one of the giants in Sense Fortress.
He does. I think it's
hard to see 'cause
the
he-
wooden plank.
Yeah, he's got the wooden plank mask. He looks a little thinner than them. He hasn't been eating well, but yeah, maybe a boss, maybe an environmental, just like kind of hazard.
An obstacle, yeah, that'd be really cool.
We haven't seen this boss, or at least I didn't see him in my demo.
I believe he was actually one of the optional bosses in the demo. I can't say for sure. I've been referring to this guy as he looks like Smo and Hovel kind of had some kind of scary,
Gross
icy armored frog baby.
Yeah, he looks
fun to fight.
kind of like a brawler here. He's got this mace. He has no problem kind of barreling through you in a relatively small arena here. I think that's going to be a hard fight.
I'm looking forward to it.
No, he's rough. Now, we did face this boss. What was its name?
Dancer of the Frigid Valley.
Correct. Such a good Dark Souls name. And this character has one of my favorite designs in all of Dark Souls. First of all, I just want to point out that fiery knife there. That's the weapon she starts with. Or it. I guess I don't know.
I've been saying she.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And as it moves, it kind of has this wispy, smoky cape.
Yeah, the whole boss kind of moves like she's swimming through the air. It's really awesome.
Oh, she's great. I almost beat her. Didn't though, unfortunately.
I did
my Dark
beat her.
Souls cred.
I did beat her, and it was pretty hard. So I'm really excited about that because I've been breezing through bosses in Dark Souls 2, and
And now you're like.
It's great to see this challenge.
And this last shot we get here, it kind of harkens back to Dark Souls 1. the Hellkite Dragon.
Yep.
Swoops down on the bridge, blasts you and all the enemies with fire.
Yep.
And then in there it sits perched until you have to try to fight it and move past to get to the shortcut.
Yep.
Crisps this guy. He's just dead. He has a bad time.
He always tries to block it with the shield.
It doesn't
Can't
work.
do it, dude.
That doesn't work. All right, we're at the end here, I believe. Dark Souls 3.
I'm so excited.
All right, and as we said, Chloe's preview is up online. It gets a little more into the mechanics, a little more into the weeds, which if you really want that is where you should go. But until Dark Souls 3 comes out, we're going to have a lot more here about that game. So for more on From Software's next game, keep it right here on IGN.